Welcome to Three Witches and a Druid podcast, a Canadian podcast about paganism in today's modern society.
The full moon rose at midnight, pale and bright, like your skin beneath my touch. Some are left without a warning, and in the morning I tried to tell myself you didn't mean that much. Sometimes the wolves of silence and the moon howls. Sometimes the wolves of silence and the moon howls. Between the TVs and the telephone, there lies another world, a thought that we once shared. But the trinkets and the baubles crept up from behind and caught you unaware. Sometimes the wolves of silence and the moon howl. Sometimes the wolves of silence and the moon howls. Gave your soul up in the barter, became the martyr, not your most becoming role. The curtain parted in a second before you reckoned, and then you traded off your soul. Sometimes the wolves of silence and the moon howl. Sometimes the wolves of silence and the moon howls.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Three Witches and a Druid, where we sit around drinking a local Nova Scotia cider that's flavored with strawberries and basil and is amazing, and talk about being pagans in the modern world. I'm Margot.
And I'm Maeve.
Gwen.
And I'm Brian. So
Meander River. So it's from Meander River, which is
The Meander River I'm thinking
it's a river
about
that meanders.
it's sort of around St. Croix, and there's a waterfall I've been to there.
Yeah, it's
I don't
kind
know
of
if it's the same one.
a little bit sort of on the way to Windsor. That's all
St.
I
Croix.
know. Yeah,
That's St.
Yeah.
Croix. Little Meander River.
We camped up that way. And
Nice.
we stopped at this place and they were having a farmer's market.
they
It's
do
good
some
fuck.
fun things. They had a whole event set up at one point for, I think it was the Persidiads, that they were having people out, and they had an astronomer there and everything. But then, of course, that night was cloudy and terrible, and it got canceled.
Nova Scotia.
Yeah, yeah. We had registered to go. We were so looking forward to it, and didn't happen.
Yeah.
Because,
Nova
Cloud.
Scotia,
Clouds.
Yeah.
salty fog.
So we're going to continue our tool series and talk about the grimoire, or the Book of Shadows, as some call it.
Or the grimoire, however you want to say
Yeah,
it.
I like grimoire. Or live journal. It was called at one point. Yeah, so basically, the book that you use, you write your stuff in, you write your secrets, you write your spells, you write your knowledge. Whatever way you transcribe the knowledge that you have is what we're going to talk about.
Oh,
Cool.
What is that? I was going to say,
Well,
because we have
here's the
different
thing.
definitions.
No, it's not different definitions. It's just me and my sometimes willy-nilly way of doing things. In almost 40 years, I've never had a Book of Shadows, specifically, or a grimoire. However, I have many binders.
I was going to say, you probably have a lot of post-it notes.
Well, no, I have a binder full of rituals. I have a binder full of notes for the witching hour.
Hey, look,
I have a
look.
binder full of this is for this and this is for this.
No one said your grimoire had to look good. It could just be a binder full of papers.
I just have a bunch of binders. Now, recently, I finally decided, and I have, I don't know, approximately 6,000 single little or half pieces or quarter pieces of paper shoved in a bookcase in my house. And I said, I'm finally going to, after all this time, maybe put it together in a book.
So what you're saying is that, yeah, you're going to put it in a book, but the book is just going to be
A
like
big-ass
book.
binder.
Yeah, well, a bunch of pages that are loose and they fall out.
No, I can put the little ring things on, but no, a lot of it is, I've just started. It's going to take me years probably to put down. And how many, if you're like me, oh, look at that, what a neat idea. Somebody posts something and I take a screenshot of it on my phone. So then now I'm starting to write out all those things and put them in this binder and all the different sections. And I have the biggest, thickest binder you can get your hands on. And that will be my Book of Shadows.
It worked.
It will be a binder of things because I have so much. For me, I just never did it. At first, I thought I might do it and had a little book,
Yeah.
7 years ago or whatever it was. But you filled that up in, the first month or so when you're beginning. And then some people are much more on the ball about that than me.
Right.
But even if it's like, oh, yes, I remember I was there and somebody did something and there was a little handout and I could still go find it for you from 27 years ago.
Right.
But it was not in a book. I'm getting there now.
Right.
But I do like the idea of that. Maybe I'll put a lock on the binder. What did you say? Put a lock on it.
Yeah.
And there's part of me.
But since it's a binder, it has to be just like a hardware store.
Yeah,
lock.
hardware store. Or I'll put it in a box is what I'll do and put a lock
There
on the
you go.
box. And my grandkids will probably
Pull it out.
be
Yeah.
interested one day. What is this? What is this? But it is nice to have such a thing if you're on the ball enough.
Yeah.
And see, I'm not artistic or anything. Some people decorate them and, glue things in. I've got barely legible handwriting, so that's me. I have many books of shadows, binders, all binders.
Binders of
Witchcraft
shadows.
101 binders, Witchcraft 102 binders, shows, rituals, and that's a big, long...
Someday you're going to get older and you're going to talk about your binders of shadows. And someone's going to think it's like, oh, it's mystical. It's like, no, it's literally just
I
doing
was-
gangbangers.
Binders, a dungeon-like.
And no, and no, seriously.
Showing my-
And me, of course, my kid who is outgrown binders, but in high school and all that, all these binders are this or that. I don't care if it's used. Some of these binders are secondhand or they're friend. I just stick it in.
See, I don't know. I would call that my books of cool shit as opposed to my book of shadows. I'm preparing now. I'm kind of doing what you're doing and going through a bunch of past stuff. And I'm preparing what I would call a grimoire for each of my kids as gifts, but those will be specifically rituals, recipes, and around the wheel of the year. But I think of a grimoire as specifically like what you might think of a historical grimoire. It would be a spell book in a way, or a ritual book, or whatever. Whereas I think a book of shadows, and I have notebooks of that sort of thing is I did this ritual, this is what happened. I did this journey work, this is what happened. My book of shadows is my personal stuff written into it. And then I have my books of possibly cool shit or something, which are things that I'm going to do. But I wouldn't be my book of shadows till I actually did it.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting perspective. I never thought of it that way, but as you were talking about it, it really makes sense to me. It made sense in my head that, yes, your Book of Shadows are the things you have done. It's your record of things for you to then 6 months later, a year later, think, well, that didn't work. That did not manifest in the way I wanted. But you go back and you look at the spell or you look at the journey work and then it's like, it kind of did.
Yeah.
It's in a different way, but it also worked out.
Yeah, that's neat because when you said, go back and look at something, and it made me think of more. I have a binder of automatic writing. I have many ring scribblers of meditation work and this. I have so many things, and I never called them my books of cool shit. Rain, can you give me my show binder? It's just it says show on the end.
Perfect. Yeah.
But no, and I have all kinds of scribblers. I've got a scribbler, like a ring scribbler with tarot stuff in it, and I had a ring scribbler that was stuff with, working with a group. I just had all the little, I guess I have it all divided up. And
I have my cool shit stuff, that stuff that I've been collecting, say, in the last 5 to 10 years. I have the little pieces of paper or scribbled notes from somebody else's ritual I've been to or something, and I think that is cool. I need that idea for later. But then I have file folders on the computer, right? So I have my tarot file folder and I have my this file folder, and when something comes up that I think I could do something like this, I could incorporate it in a different way, or I could copy it wholesale, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Then I have those file folders. So I do use online, and I think there's a number of people who have like online books of shadows, online grimoires.
It's called Live Journal.
When I
Yeah.
when I hear the word grimoire, maybe it's, I don't know, I kind of think of as something a bit more super secret, something a bit heavier. You pull this out when you really need big guns or something like that. I don't know what it is about that. It's not a word that I never gave much thought to.
Weight of ages to it or
The
something.
weight of ages, yes.
Yes. When I worked at Little Mysteries and all the young enthusiastic newbies would come in, they would be like, I want to see the old books. Where are the old books? I want to see the old books. And
Or
it's like,
habit.
there are no old books. They're expecting some leather bound, gold gilt, titled, and we don't have old books.
Yeah.
So
the old books.
in 100 years, your binders are going to be the ancient old books.
It's true. I think that
Well, we do have the witch's hammer, which doesn't quite catch.
the malefact.
Yeah.
Malefact manner. However you say it.
That's not written by anybody.
No,
that
no,
we're
but that's as old
following.
as you get.
That's
Yeah.
as old as you get. Now, I have a couple of great books by scholar Owen Davies. One is Book of Grimoires, so that all those historical books, and then another one which is a lot more accessible is, I think, called The Art of Grimoire or Grimoire Art or something. Author's Owen Davies. If you want to look at and see some of these really old books through the eyes of somebody who knows what they're talking about, those are great books to access. So I would look into those. But yeah, there's more recently been made public or published a new work about those old grimoires, a lot of them do not translate well to modern life.
No.
We're not boiling toads unless we are hungry. You know, like we don't have that same
A lot of those
casual-
terms represented something else.
very often, especially plants and stuff. And but then also there was stuff that we just don't do
Yeah.
anymore.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? If it feels very, and it's not a grimoire, so to speak, it feels very grimoire-ish, shall we say, is go look in your, in your mother, your aunt's, or whatever's recipe book shelf.
Yeah.
And find your grandmother or your great-grandma's, the cookbooks they had. And I'm going to tell you, there's one that belonged to my ma, and it's like oven medium, oven high, oven low, because they were cooking on wood stoves and some of the things, and cook this on this kind of day, or don't cook this when the clouds are out because it won't rise. And I know it's cookbooks, but it's very, very interesting.
Measurements are associated with things that we no longer use.
Yes, it's very
often.
You say that old knowledge. You think, get out an old cookbook like that, and it's really interesting. And maybe your grandmother's notes are in the corner, your great granny's notes are in the corner, and things like that. And I know it's not spells, so to speak, but that to me feels very old, knowledgey, grimoire-ish kind of idea.
I don't know what is more of a spell than taking a little speck of yeast and turning it into a
I
loaf
was
of bread.
thinking that myself. There's
That's
nothing
pretty
more
awesome.
magical than that,
Well,
right?
this-
And pretty much all the elements are involved in bread making.
Yeah. And I also think of knitting very much as magic. You have string. It's a string.
Yeah.
And you turn it into something
3D.
magnificent. Yes.
3D.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's definitely magic in that for sure.
We're going to do one on crafting. I've been advocating for that for years, that we do magical crafting, because I think that, there's so many really cool things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So for the groves, we have in the works a grimoire. We haven't put it into a physical manifestation yet. But
Is it digital?
It's digital right now. It's over 900 pages.
Ooh.
The idea behind our grimoire is we want to create this book that we can pass on to the next generation, who can then add information as they go. So our book has everything. It has all the rituals we've ever done, all the rituals that we have come up with that we haven't done. It has recipes in it. It has birth dates, the family tree of the grove, like my dedicate package, Mark's dedicate package, Karen's dedicate package in it. Probably excerpts from different books that we've been able to sort of pilfer online in PDF form. We print it off and put it in the grimoire. Every piece of druidic knowledge we can find, we've put into this grimoire.
That's amazing.
With the idea that druids never wrote down anything, so we can't fucking figure out what they did, and we're making sure that doesn't happen again.
That's very
Then you better make a print copy, just in case total anarchy reigns.
So
and digital copies
as
disappear.
the artist of the group, I had this vision of this big leather-bound book with a big wooden cover with a tree carved into it.
It's going to be a binder, isn't it?
No, it's not going to be a binder.
You know what? Let me defend the binder here. Let me, for 1 minute, defend the binder. Now that I'm amalgamating all the different binders, which are all, all these topics, I've just never thought about how many ring scribblers, and I have so many now that I'm thinking about it, and I forgot all about the scribblers. Anyway, and I would buy a scribbler if I was doing somthing in a topic, and with a nice cover, an owl, or this, or that. But the thing is as I'm writing it down, I can open the binder, unclip the clasp, and put it where it belongs.
Well, I was going to say, essentially, it's just a very fancy binder, because, yes, we want to be able to put stuff in
and out. You have to, because
Never
if I
out,
was just
only
if I was just doing it in the order I'd done it, well, I would never find anything in it. And so that's why I'm using a binder. I can open, this is a tarot something. Oh, tarot section. Oh, this is a Beltane spell. Oh, Beltane
And that's a very good hint for people that want a physical copy. Is as you're building your practice and adding to it, you want to be able to slip it back in. If you're doing a wheel of the year,
things come up. You're always learning new things to add.
We also have a lot of rituals we just haven't done or haven't needed to do at this point. Like, we have a ritual for a veteran's retirement. We have a ritual for a miscarriage. We have a ritual for adoption. We have a ritual for a lost pet. We have a ritual for a new pet. We have a ritual for a new home. We have a ritual for leaving a home. There's tons.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
I know Zed Budapest had a miscarriage ritual in one of her books.
Yeah, I wrote a miscarriage one for a lady over COVID. And she just wanted something that she could do privately, so I wrote one.
Yeah.
And then I wrote the same kind of thing, but for like more of a group setting if you wanted family to be involved.
Yeah. Kind of interesting.
And then Gwen had done like our house blessing one, so like I might steal that from her at some point and put it in.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
very good. Do you have anything particular, Margot, or is it like me, a pile of papers on a shelf?
And I actually don't even have that much papers. They are mostly loose papers from, if I was doing a ritual or leading a ritual, then I've written it down, or had handouts at different rituals or events. I've always kept those, but I don't have anything remotely organized as far as keeping a record. And it's just occurring to me now as we're talking that I probably didn't think about it, or it didn't occur to me because I won't have anybody to pass it on to.
Do you have like a nephew?
I have 2 nephews.
Oh, 2 nephews. Pardon me, I thought it was nice.
Neither one of which would be remotely interested. Their interests are very different and mainstream. I mean, they know who I am and what I do, but have no real interest in following it or anything. So that, I don't know. Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
It never occurred to me to really keep things organized and collected. For me, a lot of it is the books I've used, which, interestingly enough, a lot of them are magical cookbooks.
Witching in the kitchen.
You know me, if I love you or I want to share with you, food is involved. So most of my rituals that I've created do have food involved.
The potato ritual. Potatoes.
We were talking about that, weren't we? Everyone bring potatoes a different way.
So, yeah. And, the cookie ritual that we did, that was amazing, too. Writing what you want with icing on your cookie and then eating the cookie.
Oh, good. As long as you eat it.
That was really good.
And the Taurus-based potato, hot potato.
Mark and Lily will freaking cook bread for rituals, and we don't get to eat it. It kind of pisses me off.
Yeah.
Like, we put all of our energy into the bread, and then we burn it on the fire. And it's like, don't get me wrong, I like burning shit on fire.
Yeah.
But I also want to eat the really little breads that look really good.
Well, they did make 2.
Well, they make 3 of them. Can we do it 3 times so it's like worse? Because there's multiple of them.
Well, it's funny because when I lived with Ray and Rhonda, that was sort of something that Rhonda would always comment on, because I would cook something or bake something to take it away to go do a ritual with someone, and they're like, you're always baking stuff and we never get to try it because you just take it away.
I know that nothing was worse when you were a kid, when your mom baked something and you're looking at it and you didn't get to have it. Don't you touch that. I'm taking that out tonight. You know what? Speaking of bread baking, we need to put Andrew on baking ritual bread.
Yes.
That's what we need to do. Ingredients that could go into it, or breads associated with seasons. He makes that really... You ever seen that it's sort of big and round, and it's got that sort of the candied fruit in it, and it looks like white bread, and people go, it doesn't taste very good? Toast it. And then the whole world changes. He made that one time. It's awesome. We need to get Andrew, if you're listening, Andrew, to make us some ritual bread. That's a great idea.
Yeah. So I'm glad we've gone from grimoire to baking.
To food.
Well, I was going to say, as long as he includes the recipe so that we can put it into our
Into our binders.
into our binders. Yeah.
And of course, like, we're talking about this. You have a binder. It doesn't need to be fancy.
No.
It could literally be an online blog. It could be a binder. It could be duotangs. It could be whatever it is.
For me, it's probably Excel spreadsheets.
There you go.
Yeah.
Post-it notes.
Yes.
So
Depending
it
on...
just depends, because, I mean, the nice big books, If I had really great penmanship and I could draw things in the corners, whatever, I would probably invest in a big book, take my favorite things or Wheel of the Year things and put it in. But I do not have any of those skills.
Yeah.
I do not. So the binder is great with me. It's all there.
Just thinking for people, what do I need to put in it? Or if they're starting out and they want to do something, it can be as artistic as you want it to be and as fancy, but it can be as plain and simple as you want it to be.
Scribbler.
Yeah.
And also, if you purchase a beautiful journal, or if you're gifted with a beautiful journal, do not put it on the shelf because it's too beautiful and you don't want to ruin it by writing in it. Write
Many have we
in
done that
it.
with.
Yes. Use it to write. Write in it. Keep your notes. You know, even if it's a dream journal or a food journal, which is interesting because with my dietitian, I've just started, she didn't recommend it, but I felt I needed to start doing a food journal.
Mm-hmm.
But this time I'm focusing on the good I'm doing. So this is how good I'm doing, rather than in the past when I've done a food journal, this is a record of all the crap I've eaten. So it's a very different
Very
approach,
motivating.
very different approach that I can show I've done well this day. This day, maybe not so much, but then the next day I was able to really get on it again. Yeah. So it's more about how well I'm doing rather than how crappy I'm doing.
That's a really good point, though. Mark used to make journals, and he gifted them to everybody, and he stopped making them because nobody used them. They were all like, oh, it's too pretty. It's like, well, that's not the point of it. The point of it is funny because you think that if you write in it, you're going to ruin it, but you make it more beautiful by using it.
Yes, for sure.
And if you do have one that's really pretty and leather bound, maybe it's not too big, even if you just put the special things, I went, this ritual was this, and this is how it was and felt, and a few of your feelings, put something in it, even if you want to save it for the extra special things, you got to write it.
Yeah.
Well, that is what we have to say about Books of Shadows, grimoires, and all that. It can be whatever you like. Just, if you're in the mood to do that, you can have a binder or a beautiful big leather from Mark. I remember those. Those are very beautiful.
Is that one from the 80s, 90s was it called a Trapper Keeper? Yeah, I'm going to find an old Trapper Keeper and make that.
Yeah, you can tell there's this age gap. We're all looking at each other like stuck.
It was super in.
Deer in the headlights.
In school.
Oh, no.
Trapper Keeper.
I don't know. But thank you, everybody, for listening.
Hello, beloved listeners and patrons of Three Witches and a Druid podcast. We would like to take a moment to express our heartfelt gratitude for your unwavering support of our podcast. With your encouragement, we have been able to explore and celebrate the rich and diverse world of paganism and spirituality. We feel blessed to have had the opportunity to share our knowledge and experiences with you. As we continue to grow and evolve, we invite you to join us on this journey and become a Patreon member of our podcast. Your contribution will help us to continue creating quality content and provide you with more exciting episodes filled with wisdom, insights, and a little enchantment. By becoming a Patreon member, you will not only support our mission, but you will also have access to exclusive content, behind the scenes goodies, discounts, and much, much more. Together, we can create a thriving and supportive community. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts for being a part of our Three Witches and a Druid family.
I hope you're having a wonderful spring, and I hope it's warm and happy where you are. And until next time, merry meet,
Merry part,
and merry meet again.
blessed be.
This has been Three Witches and a Druid podcast. Thanks for listening.